Let's get ready for a moon landing in Space Engineers. Built this rocket. This was my first attempt at a spacefaring rocket to get me off of this alien planet and take me to the nearest moon, which happens to be Titan.
Sure looks like he's ready.
I'm looking at my partner here,
Yes.
chatting with him a little bit as we prepare for launch. He's in his passenger seat.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn on the rocket.
Let's fire it up. Batteries.
On this first rocket, all I built was a single hydrogen thruster. You're going to see about how well that turns out for me.
Looking down.
Launch is no problem, but unfortunately, I make another mistake pretty early on here, in that I pitch down. As soon as I think I'm high enough, I go ahead and aim towards the moon when I'm really still at quite a low altitude. And yeah, I basically just really underestimated the scale of these planetary systems. So you can see we've jumped forward in time a bit and fuel's running low. We haven't really got very far. In fact, we're falling from the sky. And so I just sent a message to my teammate, emergency landing. We didn't make it real far on this first attempt toward the moon.
This is gonna be rough.
But we learned a lot of lessons, and we'll be able to avoid some of these mistakes when we put together the next ship. So we landed about 12 kilometers from the home base, so I was able to fly back with my jetpack, grab the ship, pick up Buddy, head back to base. We had to ditch the old ship and really just start fresh, create a brand new one. For our second ship, I put a bunch of different type of propulsion systems. So I've got atmospheric thrusters all the way around.
Fuel tanks and
I've
more
got ion thrusters for space, zero-G navigation, and then I've got, of course, a single hydrogen on this vehicle as well. Now, one of the first things you're going to see me do this time is check all of my systems before I take off. So I'm going to verify that each of the engines is basically responding to my commands and controls.
message to my partner.
Once it all looks good, we're blasting off, heading back into space. Now this time I've learned I want to fly in a straight line for as long as possible. Time lapse here. The problem is my single hydrogen thruster was not enough to actually propel this vehicle. The weight of the vehicle was too much for a single hydrogen thruster, and so you can see my velocity decreased to 0 and is actually now in the negatives, and so I had to bring it back down. Now the upside of flying in a straight line, very easy to land, return back to ground, so we made it back without destroying the ship. Turning it off, that engine sound is hydrogen engines to recharge the batteries and go ahead and start getting ready for the next excursion. So same ship for our third attempt, but we've added additional hydrogen thrusters. You can see there's 3 now along the bottom.
We've added a couple extra boosters on the bottom.
We've cleaned it up, added some extra
Made it look a little bit
panels and
better.
whatnot. There's actually a reduction in atmospheric thrusters. I've cut it back to 2. Seemed like the 4 was a bit overkill, so we reduced it to 2 and 3 hydrogen thrusters. So we're going to cycle through our systems again.
Just turn on the battery.
We want all our engines working. Sometimes if you do little repairs or you tweak something, or my buddy got in there and tampered with the settings, things didn't always work right on the first try, so it's always good to double check before you put yourself in the sky and then find yourself in a situation where you are unable to control the vehicle. So So everything looked good. We released the brakes and take off. Now we're flying exclusively on atmospheric thrusters. And I noticed that about left my teammate behind. He had been in the cockpit when I began to do my systems check. He must have jumped out at one point, so he came flying up to catch me.
We had an astronaut outside the...
Right, with everyone in the cockpit, we take off, and you can just see this planet falling away behind me. You see where I slowed down there was where the atmosphere got so thin that my atmospheric thrusters didn't work anymore, so I had to switch to my hydrogen to push me the last little bit out of gravity. You can see we're about 1/10 of a G now, so we've really come a long way. Alright, once I felt that we were free enough from gravity of the alien planet, we pitched and rolled over towards the moon. Now, if you're watching the chat on the left side of the window, you'll see my partner refer to this moon frequently as Mars. It is not in fact Mars. It is moon Titan. But you can understand how he might come to that conclusion from its reddish color and the thin brown atmosphere. So now we're just flying. This was probably half an hour of flight time, maybe more, 40 minutes. Basically, we gave ourselves a thrust in the direction and then shut all systems off and just glide. Alright, now we're quite close. We're starting to commence landing procedures. You know, you can see I'm tipping the rocket back to try and land on the feet. But at this time, I hammered on my hydrogen thrusters and got nothing. You see I've got fuel, but my hydrogen thruster was not working, and so I was not able to slow myself down. That's the landing gear. I found out later that what had happened was my teammate, in an attempt to conserve fuel, had shut off my fuel tank. So I was not able to provide fuel to the engines and slow myself down. So he and I had a little chat about that later on. And since then he's, for the most part, let me control and maintain systems on the spacecraft to avoid instances like that. But honestly, that went about as well as could be expected. It was a very direct bounce. We lost the landing gear, but no other damage was done. Engines and other systems are actually holding up quite nicely. Just trying to slow it down. Again, I don't have hydros, so I'm trying to do this with atmospherics. And at this point, he must have realized what was up. You can see the hydrogen thrusters have turned on. Now I'm able to better control the craft and bring it down steady. Now about here's when I realized I have no landing gear. What am I going to put down on? So I switched outside the vehicle view just to take a look at the damage, basically. And when I did so, I observed, in fact, no landing gear. But this is an easy fix, so I elevate off the ground. We hopped out, we installed some landing gear, welded them up.
But,
real quick fix.
managed to keep us upright.
Hopped back into the cockpit and brought it back down nice and easy onto its landing gear. Got a lock on the surface.
There we go.
And stepped out onto the surface of Titan.
That gives me a much better.
Beautiful sunny afternoon.
Alright. Here we are.
First moon landing was successful. Took a few tries, but with this relatively simple, lightweight craft, we were able to make it all the way here.
Welcome to Titan.
And also back again.